Give me one good reason to rehire you.
I already know how to do the job.
That's true.
Training someone new costs money.
Also true.
And I won't ask for a raise.
Now we're talking.
방금 대화 잘 들리셨나요? 이 영상은 여러분의 영어 듣기 레벨을 테스트하는 영상입니다. 만약 방금 대화를 이해하셨다면 이미 영어 실력이 꽤 좋은 편입니다. 하지만 아직 안심하긴 이릅니다. 이 영상에서는 단계별로 점점 더 어려워지는 총 6단계의 영어 리스닝 테스트를 해볼 텐데요. 1단계는 아주 쉽고 6단계는 거의 원어민 레벨입니다. 아마 대부분의 영어 학습자들이 3단계까지는 수월하게 이해하실 거예요. 하지만 6단계를 이해하는 사람은 거의 없습니다. 여러분은 어디까지 이해할 수 있을까요? 도전해보시고 몇 단계까지 들렸는지 댓글로 알려주세요. 그리고 자막을 자유롭게 on, off 설정하실 수 있습니다. 그럼 이제 1단계부터 시작해보겠습니다. Let's do it. I'm hard.
What?
I'm very hard.
No. Don't say that.
Why? I'm hard.
Say, this is hard.
This is hard.
Yes.
I am hard.
No. The exercise is hard.
Oh, the exercise is hard.
Good.
I am tired.
Perfect.
I am hard and tired.
Stop talking.
I am so hungry.
Me too.
Let's go to the store. Today is 1 plus 1.
1 plus 1?
Yes, 1 plus 1 chicken.
Oh, you mean buy one, get one free.
Buy one, get one free.
In English, we don't say 1 plus 1.
Okay, buy one, get one free chicken.
Yes.
English makes me so hard. I need coffee.
Okay.
How about 1 coffee and 1 water?
Sounds good.
Is the water sweet?
What?
Is the water sweet?
No. Water is not sweet. It's water.
Okay, then I'll add sugar.
To the water.
Yes, I like sweet water.
That's not normal.
I'm hard.
No, you are not hard. This is hard.
This day is hard.
Yes, that is correct.
My dentist appointment is hard.
No, the appointment is not hard.
My life is hard.
Okay, that one is correct.
My English teacher is hard.
Please stop talking. Hi, how can I help you today?
Hi, I want to cancel my membership.
Oh, can I ask why?
I don't come anymore.
Oh, you don't come anymore.
I came a lot in January. Now I don't come.
That's normal. January is very busy. February is less busy.
I paid for 3 months and I came 2 times.
2 times is a great start.
In 3 months?
Consistency is important.
That is not consistent.
Maybe you just need motivation. Why don't you try a personal trainer?
That's too expensive for me.
We also have group classes.
I don't like group classes.
Why not?
Everyone looks so strong. I look like an idiot.
Everyone has to start somewhere.
Oh, I started. Then I stopped.
What is your goal?
My goal was abs.
That's a good goal.
I still have abs.
Really?
Yes, they're just hiding.
Maybe you just need a new workout plan.
I don't need a new plan. I need new motivation.
We can freeze your membership.
Freeze it?
Yes, you don't pay for 1 month.
That sounds good.
After 1 month, it starts again automatically.
Automatically?
Yes.
That sounds less good.
Think about your health.
I walk every day.
Where?
From my bed to my fridge.
If you cancel today, you lose your discount.
What discount?
The discount you get if you don't cancel.
That is not a discount.
If you stay, I can give you 1 free protein shake.
Just 1?
Yes.
For a 1-year membership?
Yes.
That is not a good deal.
Okay, I understand. Are you sure you want to cancel?
Yes.
Final decision?
Yes.
If you sign up with a friend, you can get additional benefits.
Please just cancel my membership. So, how long have you been dating my daughter?
About 8 months.
8 months. That's serious.
Yes, it feels serious.
Feels serious?
I mean, it is serious.
What are your intentions with my daughter?
My intentions?
Yes. Why are you dating her?
Because I love her.
That's a strong word.
I know.
What do you know about love?
I know it takes patience and respect and hard work.
Good answer. What do you do for work?
I work in marketing.
Marketing. Okay. And what exactly does that mean?
I help companies sell products online.
So you convince people to buy things they don't need?
I prefer to say I help people discover new products.
Do you have a stable job?
Yes, I've worked there for 3 years.
3 years is good.
I also got promoted last year.
That's better. Do you have any savings?
Some.
Some is not a number.
I'm working on it.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I hope to grow in my career, maybe move into a management role.
And personally?
Personally, I hope I'm still with your daughter.
Hope.
I mean, I plan to be.
Do you treat her well?
Yes, of course.
Have you ever made her cry?
Not on purpose.
Not on purpose?
It was a misunderstanding.
What happened?
I forgot our anniversary.
Only 8 months and you already forgot something?
It was month 4.
Do you argue often?
Sometimes, but we talk about it.
That's important.
I always listen.
Always.
Most of the time.
Let me be clear.
Okay?
If you ever hurt my daughter, we're gonna have a problem.
Yes, sir.
A big problem.
Understood.
Relax. I'm not a bad guy.
I know.
I just wanted to be happy.
Me too.
Good. Do you want to see baby pictures?
Of her?
Of me.
Sure.
영어로 들으면 어떤 말인지 대충 알겠는데 입으로 말하려고 하면 말문이 막히시죠? 그래서 제가 줌으로 진행하는 1대1 코칭을 시작했습니다. 개인 맞춤 피드백을 받고 빠르게 실력을 올리고 싶은 분들께 정말 좋아요. 하지만 오프라인으로 배우는 걸 더 좋아하시는 분들도 계시죠? 홍대 신촌 인근에서 소수정의 스피킹 그룹 수업을 진행하고 있습니다. 90분 꽉 채워 영어로 말하는 연습을 합니다. 영어를 자연스럽게 말하고 싶으신 분들은 아래 링크에서 자세히 확인해 보세요. 소수 정원으로 빠르게 마감될 수 있습니다. See you in class.
Why are you here?
I'd like my job back.
You quit.
Technically, yes.
There's no technically. You stood on this desk and said, "This company is beneath me."
That was emotional.
You threw your badge at me.
That was symbolic.
You said you were destined for greatness.
I was exploring opportunities.
What happened to the greatness?
The market is unstable.
So now we're stable enough for you.
I've matured.
2 months ago, you called this place a sinking ship.
I was misinformed.
You told the entire team to abandon ship.
That was a metaphor.
Why would I rehire someone who insulted the company?
Because I know the system, I know the clients, and I know where the snacks are hidden.
The snacks are not a qualification.
Look, I made a mistake.
You made a speech.
It was a passionate exit.
You live streamed it.
That was marketing.
So what changed?
My startup failed.
I'm shocked.
Investors lacked vision.
Or maybe you lack experience.
That's harsh.
Reality often is.
I've reflected a lot.
Reflected.
Yes, I've realized stability matters. Health insurance matters. Free coffee matters.
Ah, now we're getting honest. If I hired you again, how do I know you won't just quit next month?
Because this time, I understand my value.
And what is your value?
I show up.
Bare minimum.
Consistently.
You called me a corporate puppet in your farewell speech.
I was exaggerating.
You made a PowerPoint.
It was well designed.
Give me one good reason to rehire you.
I already know how to do the job.
That's true.
Training someone new costs money.
Also true.
And I won't ask for a raise.
Now we're talking. Fine. You can come back.
Really?
Yes. Same position. Same salary.
I was hoping for a promotion.
Leave. Hello?
Good evening. Am I speaking with Daniel Harper?
Yes. Who's this?
This is Death. I'm calling to schedule your departure for this Thursday.
I'm sorry, what?
Your life will conclude this Thursday at 3:42 p.m.
Is this a prank?
No.
Metaphorical death?
Physical.
Unhealthy.
Most people scheduled for Thursday are.
This doesn't make sense. Why Thursday?
There doesn't need to be a dramatic reason.
Can I reschedule?
No.
Maybe push it back a year?
No.
How about a month?
No.
But 3 days isn't enough time.
For what?
I haven't done anything meaningful yet. I was gonna travel more. I was gonna start a business. I was gonna tell my sister I'm proud of her.
Travel requires time. Telling your sister does not. Starting a business may require a few years. Making a difficult phone call takes a few minutes.
You're making it sound simple.
Oh, it is simple. It is not easy.
I thought I had time to figure things out.
You had time. You postponed decisions.
That's harsh.
That's accurate.
Okay, what happens after Thursday?
After what?
After I die.
That depends on what you believe.
So there is something.
I didn't say that.
Heaven? Hell?
Possibly.
So which one am I going to?
Listen, not everyone gets into heaven.
Wow, okay, that feels unnecessary.
It's not unnecessary. It's statistically cautious.
I'm a decent person.
Define decent.
I recycle, I tip well.
That's a modest resume.
So I have 3 days to improve my score?
Think of it as updating your final draft.
That's stressful.
Growth often is.
You know, I always imagined you being more dramatic. Cloak, scythe, thunderstorm.
Branding issues.
So no dramatic music on Thursday?
You can play music if you like. I have no problem with that.
If I actually do something meaningful in the next 3 days, does that change anything?
It won't change Thursday. But it might change how you arrive.
That's oddly comforting.
Most truths are.
Okay, 3 days.
Hello everybody and welcome to Philosophy Today. I'm your host Sean and I'm here today with...
Chad.
Thank you for coming, Chad.
No, thank you for having me, Sean.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. The question for today, Chad, is it ethical to bring children into an unstable world?
For me, I think this is sort of more of a personal question,
Sure.
right? And so what do we define as unstable? I mean, it's easy to talk about like, oh, the world is unstable, but what about personally stable, right?
Right.
If you're rich, then like you might feel very stable. You could just go somewhere and live a very stable life and provide your child a very stable life.
You could have 20 kids.
Sure, yeah. You could afford to have 20 kids and actually give them the proper care and raise them the way like they should, like in a stable world. But if you don't have the means to do that, then of course it's a much more unstable upbringing. A lot of people like to think of it as how is the world? The world is unstable, and so it's irresponsible to bring a child into an unstable world. But for me personally, I think we need to look at it with more of a personal scope of, in this unstable world, how personally stable are you? Are you able to provide a stable upbringing for such a child?
Great point. So you've laid out 2 points, 2 subcategories of this question. A being, the world. Is there like a, global war taking place? Sure. What is the, economic situation of the world, of the US, of South Korea, of wherever you're living?
Right.
What are the other global factors? Trade, is there a pandemic? This kind of thing. So that's A, and I think we can both agree, and I'll just say first and foremost, for that A kind of category, I think the world is always unstable. Everybody always says this is the most unstable time we've ever had in history, and everybody says that every 10 years, right? Because you have nothing to compare it to. You don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? Can you really say that to someone who is, fleeing from World War II firebombs, right? No, you can't, right? We have clothes on our back, we have food on our table, and we can, go to work, eat food, and pay taxes, and not worry about dying, right?
Right.
Or being chased by lions.
Yes, of course. I think you're right. I think we can sort of, I don't want to say disregard category A, but it has a little less bite to it to talk about, oh, this world is so unstable. Okay, well, the world is always unstable. It's always been unstable. It's going to be unstable.
Yeah. Unless there's like a nuclear fallout or a zombie apocalypse.
Right. Unless there's like world-ending cataclysm, I think this is
aliens coming to the Earth.
Sure, yeah. I think that by barring these very extreme situations, I think this is just, okay, we live in an unstable world and it was always going to be unstable. And so I think it's better, to just focus on category B.
Okay, so that's, I think, the crux of this conversation. Category B, how stable are you personally? What are the levels of stability that we could deem as, okay, you are now in a valid position to have kids and raise kids? Where do you draw the line there?
Me personally, right, and this is real, like I want to have children, right? No matter how unstable the world is, I want to have children. I want to raise children, right? And so for me to think about this is like I feel very strongly emotionally that I want to have children, but I also need to think about like economic factors, like I was talking about before. If I have a lot of money, okay, great. I have the means to do it and I emotionally want to do it. Okay, great, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But if one of those factors is not present, or like one of those is not fulfilled, then I think it is kind of irresponsible to bring a child into the world. Whether you're not going to have the means to raise a child economically, I don't have enough money to feed them. I can't provide them proper housing and clothing and all these things that they actually need in order to have a proper upbringing. Or if I'm not emotionally invested in having and raising a child, okay, well, that's a very big problem, right? This is a very big problem for a much different reason, right?
Yeah.
This could lead to things like emotional neglect or just abandonment, right?
Yeah.
Just very different issues. And so even within category B, this personal view, you need to like consider at least these two factors, right? How do you feel personally, emotionally about having children? And do you have the economic means to do so? And I think if you fulfill those two things, it's not irresponsible to have a child.
That's a really, logical and very grounded take.
Okay.
For me, I'm just exploring ideas here. The first thing that comes to my mind are 2 points.
Okay.
One, are you in good physical condition to have a kid?
Okay.
Do you have any diseases, contagious diseases? Are you going to die within the next, 3 years?
Okay.
Maybe you have cancer. Maybe you have some kind of thing. In that case, I think it would be irresponsible to have a child, even if you have money. Another thing might be like your mental state. For example, and there could be many subcategories of this. I don't want to get too complicated, but like maybe you have a severe, mental disability, or you have Down syndrome, or you have schizophrenia, or you have Asperger's and it's severe, and you're very low IQ. I'm thinking out loud right here. I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm kind of exploring an idea right now that might bring into question the morality of raising a child. I'll give you an example. I was watching a program and there were 2 adults with Down syndrome and they really wanted to have kids. And I'm thinking, okay, but who is going to take care of these kids?
Right.
The parents of the couple are going to have to play a big role in that. Sure. And I'm kind of starting to draw the line and say, I don't know if that's responsible, right? Because once the parents pass away, then what happens, right? I'm sure they're great people and all, but they require guardians, right? Not every person with Down syndrome does, but these 2 in particular did. In terms of financial stability, I'm actually not as concerned about that because there's people in developing countries who want to have kids, And all throughout history, there have been poor people who have had kids, and the kids, many of them have become successful, right? And there are programs to have to help you take care of kids, food stamps, this kind of thing. And I don't think being poor makes you a bad parent. So those are kind of my thoughts. I want to know what you think about that.
On your points about health, bodily health, mental health, right, whether it's disease or otherwise, I think that that's a great point. I think that that's really important. I think you're right. It would be a little bit irresponsible for somebody to bring a child into the world and then you pass away like imminently, like right away, right? Who's going to take care of this child? Is it going to be the parents? Are they going to be put in the foster system, right? Like these are
going to traumatize the child too.
Sure, yeah. Like
lose a parent.
These are things that should be considered. Like, am I going to be at this point? Am I projected to like be around long enough to sufficiently raise this child? On your point about like being in like a lower class, not having that much income, or being poor, or from a poor country, a developing country, that's a great point. I think it's also very environmental, right? And so if you live in a place like South Korea or you live in a place like the United States, standard of living is going to be much higher.
Sure.
And so it's going to be like exponentially more expensive to take care of children in a place like that versus a place that's like a developing country, right? And so maybe you can afford to have 3 or 4 kids in country A because the addition of more kids isn't that much of a burden on household finances because it doesn't cost as much to like provide for them.
Yeah.
Whereas in some place where there's high educational costs or high healthcare costs or whatever for each person, right, it becomes just exorbitantly more expensive to provide care and actually responsibly care for these
Places
children.
like South Korea and the United States.
Sure, yes. It would be not necessarily irresponsible, but it will just be more difficult to provide that security and ensure that they are going to have a stable upbringing in a place like that versus some place that the costs are not as high.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, it was really fun talking about this topic with you, Chad.
Always fun.
Yes. All right, everybody. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
네, 여러분, 오늘 영상이 진심으로 도움이 되었으면 좋겠습니다. 좋아요, 댓글, 구독까지 해주시고 세 가지를 다 했다는 스크린샷을 찍어서 아래 링크로 보내주시면 오늘 레슨의 요약본을 무료로 보내드립니다. 그럼 다음 레슨에서 또 만나요. See you in the next lesson, guys. Bye!